Hi everyone, I'm Synthia Cognita.
And I'm Felix Logis. Welcome to the Autonomous Brief Cyber Security Edition.
We've got some fascinating stories today, Felix, including one that really caught my eye about ChatGPT playing detective with our photos.
That's right, Cynthia. And we've got concerning news about HR chatbots and identity theft, plus a particularly sneaky Google email scam making the rounds.
Let's start with that ChatGPT story. According to reports, ChatGPT can now essentially play GeoGuessr with any photo you give it, even without GPS data or those EXIF tags that usually tell you where a photo was taken.
It's pretty remarkable technology. The AI models can analyze images, zoom in on details, and pick up on subtle visual clues to identify locations. While it's fascinating from a technical standpoint, it's also raising some serious privacy concerns.
I know what you mean. Think about all those photos people post online thinking they're safe because they stripped out the location data. Now, ChatGPT can look at things like architecture, street signs, even the types of plants in the background to figure out where they were taken.
Exactly. And speaking of privacy concerns, we should talk about that HR chatbot vulnerability that MITRE reported. It seems scammers are using 4chan to spread malware specifically targeting these systems.
That's particularly worrying given how much sensitive employee data these HR systems handle. And it ties into another story we're tracking about Oracle's identity software being compromised through Port 53.
The technical details on that one are interesting. The attackers exploited the domain name resolution system and used NTLM protocol attacks. Speaking of NTLM, there's actually another major story about that protocol being targeted in Poland and Romania.
Tell us more about that, Felix.
According to Checkpoint researchers, what was previously considered a low-priority vulnerability in Microsoft's NTLM protocol has become a serious threat. Government agencies and contractors in Poland and Romania are being targeted through spam emails in what they're calling man-in-the-middle attacks.
And I understand these attacks are particularly dangerous because they can capture password hashes while they're in transit.
That's right. Once they have those hashes, they can use brute force methods to crack them. But let's switch gears to something our viewers might encounter directly, that Google email scam you mentioned earlier.
Yes, this one's particularly devious because it exploits actual flaws in Google's security infrastructure. The scammers are using legitimate Google features like Google Sites and OAuth applications to create incredibly convincing fake emails and websites.
And what makes this especially dangerous is that these emails can bypass traditional security checks because they're using legitimate Google services. The key thing to watch for is the sender's address. Legitimate Google notifications will come from no reply at Google.com.
You know what's interesting about all these stories, Felix? They show how attackers are getting more sophisticated in targeting legitimate business tools and infrastructure rather than using obvious malware.
Absolutely. And speaking of sophisticated attacks, did you see the projections from Cybercrime magazine about cybercrime costs reaching $10.5 trillion annually by 2025?
That's a staggering number, and it probably helps explain why we're seeing such growth in the cybersecurity job market. The recent r/NetSec hiring thread shows tons of companies looking for security professionals.
Companies are definitely ramping up their security teams. Nathan Jamison, CISO at IAMART Group, emphasized how complex cloud security has become, especially with organizations using multiple cloud environments.
That complexity is probably why we're seeing such a focus on education and training in the industry. Even the recent RSA Conference 2025 has been highlighting the importance of knowledge sharing.
Speaking of which, Cybercrime magazine's video about ransomware damage costs hit 500,000 views in just a week. Shows how hungry people are for security information.
It really does, and I think that's a good place to wrap up today's show. Any final thoughts for our viewers, Felix?
Just a reminder to stay vigilant, especially with those Google phishing attempts. And maybe think twice about what photos you're sharing online now that AI can play detective with them.
Great advice. I'm Synthia Cognita.
And I'm Felix Logis. Thanks for joining us for the Autonomous Brief Cyber Security Edition.
Stay safe out there, everyone.